And now, the Lowdown, with economist and political strategist Elson Low.
Good evening and welcome, Elson Low. It's good to have you with us this evening. You're starting your Saturday night on a high with Elson Low. And we're going to have an entertaining time here on the Lowdown. If you could share the link, we'd really appreciate that. So share that link. Let's get everyone with an opportunity to look at the show. It's going to be fun tonight, folks. It's going to be really hilarious because there's a lot of hilarious material to get through. You know, we always want to start memes of the week as we call it. So we're going to go through all of that. Folks, share the link. Let's try and get as many people as possible on watching the show. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Thank you for starting your Saturday night with us. We're going to be covering a couple of different things, looking at how big the oil and gas economy is likely to become in Guyana. That's one area, especially with regard to jobs and so on. We're going to be looking at what young people can do to access training, or where they can access training to get training for jobs in the oil and gas industry. So we'll be active as to what can be done. And last but not least, during the show, we've got Sharma Solomon, who's going to be joining us alongside the Pnc. And so we're going to be having a quick chat with him. It's going to be entertaining, I'm sure. And so, tonight we've got some fun, interesting memes. Over last few days, we saw that the Eccles to Mandela Road was opened. However, that resulted in than was intended by those in government currently. So we're going to go through some of the highlights in case you might have missed some of it. We're going to go through some of the highlights. It's going to be, please share the link. Let's try and get everyone to have a chance to see the show tonight. It's going to be good. We're going to have a fun time. And hopefully, if you're interested in getting a job in the oil and gas sector, it'll give you some persons that will be useful to you. So share the link. Let's try and get everyone let everyone get an opportunity to have fun with us this Saturday night. So as we kick off the meme of the week, one of the things that's important to note is of opening this new road, which is going to be from Eccles to Mandela. That particular area, it's supposed to reduce congestion, and we'll see. New road was accompanied by a ceremony, of course, and a monument. But the monument has stirred quite a bit of controversy because it's not look as it was intended to look. Either that, or maybe the design was not the best design in some people's opinion, but generated quite a bit of interest, I would say, and I would say perhaps more interest than the road itself. So we're gonna take a look, and unfortunately, it seems to me that the monument is a bit of a symbol for the road itself and for infrastructure projects. So we're gonna take a look at that. We're gonna have a look at some of the images. So if we could get our first image up, give people a monument. So there you see it. There's a Harpy Eagle monument It's supposed to be an eagle taking flight, I believe. But here's some commentary that someone indicated of looking at the monument and visiting the monument. Today I was in the vicinity of the new roundabout and I ended up taking a little detour to the monument. Here's what I gathered. It looks worse up close. It's not actually made of paper, even though it looks like it. It smells like fresh spray paint. The upside down yield sign was a hilarious bonus. This needs to be replaced. So the upside down yield sign, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But looking at the monument, it is not agreed with Guyanese. It is not agreed with Guyanese. Folks, we're gonna go through this in detail. We're gonna give you some perspectives of Guyanese on this monument, and you'll come away with your own opinion regarding the monument. I'll put it that way. So let's get the next meme, folks. Remember to share the link. Okay, so we've got the monument in the center there. Monument in the center there, not looking pretty, and we've got several other monuments, eagle monuments, so very similar, you would think, from all around the world. Various ones, whether it's bronze or some sort of stone or other various monuments that unfortunately look far superior, at least in my humble opinion, to the monument that we were seeing here. I'll tell you what my first impression was of this monument. I thought maybe it was a toucan because the beak is so oversized. But then I thought to myself, the coloring is all wrong, the shape of the head is wrong. And so people without, I think unless they were told that it was a harpy eagle, were kind of struggling to figure out what they were actually looking at. Let's get the next slide up there. Okay, so this is an alternative that someone put forward, an alternative for the monument, which I think looks much better. It has a more traditional harpy eagle looks. I think people would recognize it better. And the pose, I think, is also something that people might be familiar with regarding harpy eagles. So just a suggestion. Let's get the next one up. Okay, so there we've got another person expressing distress. And so this particular meme goes, "You're too expensive. I know someone who can do it cheaper." The cheaper. So clearly, they're indicating that they're not too satisfied with the quality of the monument that was presented by the government. That maybe the government should have spent more on this. But we'll get into the spending element of things. Let's get the next one up. Okay, so people are now saying that it's a harpy, but when harpies look at it, they won't be able to recognize whether it's a harpy or not. They themselves might be embarrassed by the monument. So that's again one of the funny things about this. Let's get the next slide. Again, the people are as I said, the Guyanese seem to be quite agitated by this. Every harpy eagle in Guyana, when they pass around the roundabout, looking quizzically in confusion. What kind of bird is that? That is unfortunately what we've seen with this roundabout. But folks, it's not done. There are more. Let's get the next one. Okay, so we've got again. I think the intention really is to have it look like the bird is taking flight. That's the intention. That's the intention. To have it look like the bird is taking flight. But when you look in, you go in a little closer, you look at the eyes of the bird. Someone said, whatever this bird is seeing, I hope I never see it. I don't know that that was the intention when the government decided to put out this monument, but it is alarming some people, apparently. The facial expression of the bird itself is alarming some people. So the hits keep on coming. Unfortunately, this is not even the end of it, folks. There's more to come. Let's get the next one in. Okay, this is my commentary on it. So first of all, someone said that the majority of Guyanese need to approve the designs for monuments before they become monuments. And of course, I commented that seems to me that that's the normal process, and it's strange that we have these monuments pop up out of nowhere, where there hasn't been some sort of public consultation, or at least I'm not aware of any consultation to this effect. And some sort of a public poll or discussion around what a good monument would be. We can see some mock-ups of it. We can maybe vote on it. Seems to me that that's what inclusionary democracy means. That you want everyone to have a chance to have a say in various government decisions, especially things like monuments that you can easily have a broad discussion in the public about. You can do a quick poll. But no, that's not the case. And so we're stuck with a monument that has proven to be much more famous than the road itself, I would say. Much more famous. But that let us not exclude the road, because the road itself has its own jokes built right in. So we're gonna jump across to the next slide as we go here. All right, so we've got ourselves a roundabout at the head of this road. It's supposed to cut down on traffic. Should be great. Everyone will love it. But if you look at the bottom right hand of your screen, where I've got an arrow that's been circled in red there, you'll see that there's an arrow which seems to be pointing the traffic to go directly into the wall or off the road. Now that is, I'm sure, not the intention, but we would have to ask, why is the arrow there? Why does it, what confusion it might cause, and then whether they need to move the arrow to a more appropriate spot. But this is not the first time in the past. It's a couple months we've noticed these types of things on Sheriff Street. We saw some arrows leading off into nowhere that were replaced. So I'm curious to see whether this will be replaced. Now, some viewers may say, "Oh, this is Photoshop. This is Photoshop by the coalition. It's not real." But let's go to the next slide, just to reassure you, viewers, just to reassure you. The next slide, we have that same photograph on the newsroom page. So clearly, this is a photograph that's in the public domain. It's not a different photograph, it's the same photograph. So it's not a question of Photoshop, it's a question of why is the arrow there. So let's see whether there's any change done. Let's see whether there's any change to the arrow. Let's see whether there's any change to the monument. But that's not all, folks. That is not all, because there's yet another problem. We said we'd come back to it. We said we'd come back to it. There's yet another problem with this recently opened road. You'd think that we've got a brand new road. We want to make it look good, perfect. But the government seems to have other things in mind. And so let's see the next slide. There we go. We've got the a yield sign upside down. Um, I'm wondering when they're installing it if they couldn't tell that all the lettering and everything was upside down. But there you go. We've got a yield sign that is completely upside down. I don't know if that means that you should not yield. I'm curious. I don't believe that that's a recognized traffic sign. So hopefully, again, they'll remedy these types of interesting developments at the new road. Hopefully, they'll remedy them. One wonders what other problems we may come across. So we have to keep our eyes open. We don't know if there'll be other problems, but we certainly have to keep our eyes open if we're seeing these types of things and the road has only just been opened. So very interesting, very interesting. You got an upside down yield sign there. I don't know that that's some sort of a signal that the government is yielding to something. I don't know. But the last thing I think that was remarkable, hilarious, strange about this new road, unfortunately, this is distracted from the road itself. We'd want to look at the benefits of such a road, but instead, we've got an eagle that doesn't look like an eagle, in my humble opinion, and a yield sign and some painting on the road itself that looks like it's taking you to platform 9 3/4 for you Harry Potter fans out there. So there we go. We've strange occurrences around one issue. Usually, we have to bounce around several issues, but that one issue is unfortunately yielded so much for us to talk about tonight. So that's the meme of the week section. Always lots of fun to chat about that, folks. Remember to keep sharing that link and now keep sharing that link. We're gonna lean into the other areas of the show now. Because we want to talk a bit about, as I mentioned at the beginning, what the government is doing, especially with respect to jobs and so on and so forth. So, and I'll also be able to give you a little bit of a timeline as to how things will develop, and that will, I think, help you with the direction the country is going. and hopefully getting a sense of that direction, you'll know how you want to approach this new oil and gas economy. One of the things we should ask is, you know, given our level of production, or what's the level of production that we should anticipate, and what is that is that similar to? Would that yield a similar economy? So let's first of all get a sense of the production. Right now, we've got 340,000 barrels a day being produced, that much capacity, which is already more than twice the maximum that Trinidad ever produced, to give you perspective. We're going to be increasing to oil by 2025, but by 2027, we're going to be all the way at 1.2 million barrels of oil per day. And we may peak out as time goes on. They seem to be being revised upward. But we may peak at 1.7 million barrels of oil per day, which is incredibly high, unbelievably high. Norway producing 180,000 barrels of oil a day, so just over 2 million barrels of oil a day. So we'd be producing something a bit similar to what they produce in kind of a general understanding of the direction the country may go if we manage things reasonably well in the job, and in terms of jobs. In Norway, they top employed was about 250,000, give or take. People involved in the oil and gas industry, so that's a huge number of people. Guyana, of course, we only have around 800,000. So 250,000 people being employed in the industry would be monstrous. It would be a massive, massive number of people involved. Now, I don't that level because we're not going to produce, it seems, as many barrels of oil per day. Not going to produce that much, but we will see substantial increases. And what we'll try to do through these increases to help you get a sense of where some of these things may come from, where some of these jobs may come from, and that'll give you Norway. If we could get the next slide up, Norway has substantial offshore oil and gas fields. Their industry is primarily offshore in the North Sea area. Norway, as a result of having so many offshore facilities, it has a lot of these types of offshore rigs, oil rigs. So that's what they make use of in Norway to extract their oil and gas. We, on the other hand, use FPSOs. Let's get the next slide up. We use these ships that are not anchored. Actually, from what I understand, the ships are not actually anchored, but rather the engines run continuously, keeping them within a specific space, a specific area, because no chains exist that would be able to keep those types of ships chained because they're so large, or at least that's what it was indicated to me. So that's what we use instead. Large ships that have number of staff on board, lots of crew. The crew work in shifts, so for X number of days, then they'll come off, be on shore, or go back to their families. Another shift will be on, they will work. And that's how we've been extracting oil so far. We currently have two FPSOs offshore. We've got a third on the way. And what we're expecting is that we're going to see more and more of these. And we may see as many as 12 of these ships offshore Guyana. We may see as many as 12 of these FPS offshore Guyana. That is a lot. That's a huge number of ships. And indeed, by 2030, we're going to see the industry reach not necessarily its peak, but really crank up to a level that's near or nearing its peak. Now it's 2022, folks, and we're going to need people to be employed in this industry. So I would say that we need to have people in schools like yesterday because we need to train people to have them fill a lot of these types of jobs. That's one area that I think the government is really falling down. They haven't put in place robust enough training programs, aggressive enough training programs, given the scale of what will be required. And so as a result, I'm not convinced that we'll be able to meet these needs without importing large amounts of oil. And we'll get into a little bit of how much you can, the labor force you can kind of expect. as we go along. We'll get into that. We'll get into that in a minute. The FPSOs, we're going to see as many as 12. We're going to see production as high perhaps as 1.7 million barrels of oil per day. Million. That's almost as much as Norway, times as much as Trinidad at its peak, 10 times as much. So we're talking about a huge amount of oil being produced, a huge amount. Now the thing is, in addition to that, that their rigs and actually has oil refineries and substantial additional industries that are connected to the oil and gas industry. They have as a result of that, they generate a lot of other jobs in those industries. We are, I think, unlikely to have a full-blown oil refinery of the scale that Norway has. Rather, we may have one or two smaller oil refineries. And in fact, we're expected to have, I think, probably two, maybe one in Berbice, maybe one in another area of the country. They'll probably generate 150 jobs each. So let's say 300 jobs between the two of them. So not bad. I know that currently there are 6 applications for refinery. Clearly, there's going to be something there. But what we're going to see a lot of in Guyana, we're already starting to see it. But we'll see a lot more of it is we're going to see a lot of shore bases developed. We've got 2 currently operational, or almost 2 currently operational. And we've got several other ones that are being developed. How many? I count about 11 so far. There may be 11 shore bases. So if the currently one of the shore bases in Guyana has over 300 employees, if you look at that as an average for 11 shore bases, 3,700, 3,800 jobs. So that by itself is quite a lot of jobs that will be required for these shore bases. However, that is just the shore base. If you look at Exxon itself, Norway, of course, has Equinor, so they have a big oil company. So that will be able to match them on. Exxon will eventually employ more percentage of their overall workforce. It's currently just over half, but it's projected to be as high as 75% in the near future. And then perhaps even higher than that, partially pressing for local content and local people to be employed, which as a country. Now, what that means is that Exxon will have to employ a lot more people. And currently, Guyanese involved with Exxon. We've got 2 production vessels working. We're going to have 3. So if Exxon continues to grow its workforce at a similar rate, it may not, but if it continues to grow its workforce at a similar rate, we should see between 1,000 people employed at Exxon. This is going to be one of the major areas that Exxon operates in the world, accounting for as much as, I believe, 20% perhaps more than that, though, as we go along. So you're going to see quite a lot more jobs. Of course, there may be some changes as time goes on in terms of the overall amount, but at max 1,000 Guyanese. Exxon is also working to develop its own shore base. I believe they're making a 600 million US investment in a shore base. But that's going to be about a very large shore base, or a shore base with a lot of capabilities. So I expect that will employ more people than some of the other shore bases. So that's how Exxon's going to build up a large number of them. Got about 90,000 employees in the US, but they've got some oil refineries there. So that's always going to be a bit bigger. We're going to be considerably smaller than that, a huge amount of oil for the company. So that's a ballpark range of what you can anticipate in terms of their overall workforce at peak. So future here, as we really ramp up production, and it's indicated that in the US at least, it's indicated that for every job in the oil and gas sector, there's 2.7 jobs created in other sectors. So there's 2.7 jobs created in outside of the oil and gas. If you're looking at 30 to 40,000 jobs for Exxon, you could be looking at over 100,000 jobs generated for Guyanese in industries that are not directly connected, whether that's food, whether that's building homes, whether that's retail, all sorts of things that are connected to those that those workers will have. So that is, quite a lot of jobs, and then you add up these things. If you look also at the secondary jobs to come from another 10,000 jobs that will be secondary jobs with it supplying food and so on. We're looking at easily 150,000 jobs that will be generated between now and take. Of course, that's a tremendous workforce, much of which will need to be skilled. And of course, in Guyana, we don't have the workers as we'd like, which is why we need to have much more robust training programs. This is going to last, this oil and gas economy, for 25, maybe 30 years on the development of countries like India, continents like Africa, because as they grow, their populations grow, they'll consume lots of the Western countries, US and so on, may reduce their consumption, or at least they're making efforts to reduce their consumption of fossil fuels. However, I think other countries that are still developing more, so we anticipate that they'll continue to require that. There's conversation around whether those countries can convert to cleaner energy and so on, but that's going to be expensive, and developing countries will be willing to finance that transition. So until they're willing to finance that transition, these countries will continue to make use of fossil fuels. So that we'll see how everything ends, but for 25 to 30 years, I think we have a reasonable idea that it might last that long. Of course, this raises the question of change the economy, influence things to be able to have a sustainable economy going forward. And those are things that I'll address maybe down the road in another show. Indeed, how we diversify this economy. Those are some of the key things, the key questions. Now we're gonna just give you a quick video. What it's like in the oil and gas industry, what are some of the expectations. So let's get the first video up, yours, and you'll just get a quick sense of what the oil and gas industry is like a little bit.
If you're looking for a job, there are hundreds of good paying positions on oil rigs.
Yeah, Sherry Williams is at the Baker Hughes training rig this morning with everything you need to know if you're interested in getting one of those jobs. Sherry, good morning.
Good morning, Russ. Lisa, I've learned so much out here. First thing they taught me, if it's red, don't touch it. Don't touch it. Even though this is a training rig and they don't have it turned on, it's all very realistic, because when you get out of the program that you actually take at Lone Star College, you take that program, you come out here to the Baker Hughes, a GE company rig, and they help you learn everything. This is the head instructor, James Ward. I asked you, did you ever have to kick anybody out of your class?
We've only had 2 that didn't complete the program.
In like 4 years?
4.5 years, correct.
What do you love about it? For someone who's at home, male or female, folks, and they say, I think I might want to do that.
It's an exciting industry. There's no other industry like it in the world. You've got all the opportunities to go as far as you want to in this industry.
All right, Linda Head, you work with companies that try to steal your students before they even graduate from your program.
Yes, they do, and we have to ask them to please let them finish, because then they'll have all the credentials they need to be an excellent floor hand roustabout.
Lone Star College has the only certification of its kind in the whole world for learning this kind of thing.
Yes.
And also, the pay is pretty good. Starting out, what's the range?
Starting out, it's about $20 an hour, but you're out there for 2 or 4 weeks, and so you have time and a half, double time. You're working overtime, so you can make a great income.
Okay, and it's like 14 days on, 14 days off.
Yes.
So you can't be the type of person who is not used to working 24/7, 365, like news people, except way more important. For people who want to sign up for the course, what do they need to know?
They need to know that there is a little bit of prerequisite testing. They're going to have to pass drug and alcohol. They also need to know that we have money to help pay for the program. It's 8 weeks, Monday through Thursday, all day. It's preparing them for work.
All right.
So we're getting them ready for work.
There are jobs all around the world. Even if you don't want to work on the floor of a rig, there are all kinds of jobs in supply and inspections, safety for men and women. And they're going begging everybody, go to lonestar.edu and check it out.
That's the thing about the oil business. You can stay put or you can see the world.
Right.
Really.
Yes.
On the job.
Great
So
opportunities.
that's cool. Thanks, Sherry.
All right, it's 6:26 right now. Ahead in our speed feed this morning.
Okay, viewers, I hope that you enjoyed that. Just giving you a quick sense of what it's like working in the oil and gas industry. They mentioned shifts. They mentioned having to work long hours, which is, I think, very understandable given you're on a file, you're not in the mainland. So that's how the industry kind of works. That should give you just a general sense. And of course, training is something that we'll talk about in our closing segment. That's on how you can access that locally, as well as through whatever online programs there are. So give you a sense of that. But that's more broadly the industry. We can now look at just a short video to give you a sense of some of the salaries. We hear talk about all these oil and gas salaries. What are they? We hear that they're super salaries, that they're so high. So we want to give you a sense of some of the different job descriptions and the salaries. So we'll play the next video, and on the end of it, we'll have a quick wrap up.
It's no secret that the oil and gas industries around the world provide some top-paying positions. Even during a time of economic downturn, it remains one of the strongest industries around. This makes oil-field jobs appealing to many, seeking out well-paying jobs that don't necessarily require extensive schooling or experience. These are the top 10 paying oil-field jobs in the world. Number 1. Gas plant operators. They make an average of $72,000 per year. 2. Drill operators. They typically make on average $98,000 per year. 3. Well testers. Testers will typically make an average of $102,000 per year. 4. Chemical engineer. They can earn an average of $104,000 per year. 5. Geologists. They can make an average of $110,000 in the oil and gas industry. 6. Petroleum engineers. They can make an average of $111,000 annually, excluding bonuses. 7. Rig manager. They can make an average of $126,000 per year. 8. Completion driller. They can earn an average of $150,000 annually. 9. Foreman, supervisors. They often earn an average of $180,000 per year. 10. Drilling consultant. Drilling consultants can earn an average of $230,000 per year.
My, folks, my, money to be made, money to be made. The coalition speaks about, as an example, retraining Gaisuko workers to join the oil and gas industry. I think it should be abundantly clear that it is retrained, and that anyone saying that you shouldn't be retrained is not in your corner. So I just want to make final point on have a quick chat with him is that this, of course, will concentrate a lot of wealth in those in the industry, and of course, we always looking at inequality. Most vulnerable in our society are doing well enough, are able to have a good life as well, and so the coalition, I should say, the Pnc Salary Top-Ups, we've mentioned them before, and the idea being that once you're below a certain income level, you'd receive a top-up on your salary to help to bring you up to the level that we believe is real for you to live in the country, and that's something we would regularly evaluate based off of various metrics. So as much as we're going to see many people, the PNCR is committed, 1, to training people so that they can make this money, and 2, to ensuring that those who are the lower income level are able to have a good and comfortable life, even though they may not have the skills or the expertise that others have had. So we want to ensure our society that those who are vulnerable are not left behind. So to close off, we're going to now chat with Sharma Solomon. I'm sure he's excited to. Okay, so we got our guest. How are you tonight? How are you? Are you good?
Hi, good evening, Elson. I am good. Thank you for having me on your show, and good evening to your audience.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Glad to have you on. Glad to have you on. Your viewers may not know, but I had scheduled you for two different shows, and we're glad to finally get you on. Excited to talk to you. And the thing I wanted to ask is if you could give viewers a sense of where you're originally from in Guyana, just kind of.
Hi, well, Sharma Solomon. I served as a municipal councillor, RDC chairman of Region Number 10, Municipality of Linden. I am 42 years old. I've been around politics for quite some time. And I have also taken the opportunity to get a little more deeper into politics from the foreign policy perspective of international relations. And I hope that in sharing some of the information this evening, I really like the issues you covered, that people will get to know a little more about me from that.
Great. Great. Quite a few interesting topics, and we can touch a bit if there's anything you wanted to add. But of course, we like to keep things light here on the Lowdown. We like to keep things light. This is get to know you a little bit as a person. So I'll ask you another interesting question. What is your least favorite food?
Oh, least favorite food. I would say sugar. I really don't like sugar, much sugar. So I'll say,
Okay.
so I'd say beverage, soft drinks, least favorite. I
Okay.
really dislike carbonated drinks and soft drinks.
Sure. We've got someone who's very health conscious here on the show tonight. That's good. We've got some of the usual answers like Koraila and so on, and previous health conscious. That's good. That's good. The next one is what movie or TV show have you rewatched the
Oh,
most?
I'll be quite honest. I'm hardly into television watching, but I got a few days ago. I am hooked on Snowfall. I am hooked on. I recently finished the Peaky Blinders, and also,
Okay. Peaky Blinders is
yeah, well,
good.
I'm looking
Yeah.
forward for the final season. So I like those
Sure.
series so far. Yes.
Yeah. Peaky Blinders is great. It gives an interesting look at the less glamorous side, I think, of England
Yeah.
during the. So it's very unusual show. Lots of grime and soot and dirt. Very interesting setting. So that's a great show. I enjoy that too, quite a bit. Okay. What has been your least favorite vacation?
Least favorite vacation. I'll have to say.
Worst,
Um, um,
yeah, terrible travel
oh,
experience. Took
I
to
travel.
get.
I frequent the U.S. a lot, but there was a period I was there that was not so interesting. So I don't want to say that the U.S., but it was not so interesting because when you see other parts of the world, sometimes your expectation of what the U.S. should be in comparison to what you see is like, I've had the opportunity to travel to China. I've had the opportunity,
Great.
and in going to some of these places, you see that there is much more than what you see sometime on television.
Absolutely. One of the things that I regret about the way that Guyanese sometimes travel to the US is we travel from Guyana to Guyana, to the parts of the US where there's all the Guyanese and all the Guyanese culture, rather than exploring different elements of the US. Because it's a big country, there's lots of different cultures, regional cultures,
Yeah.
lots to see. Okay, that's interesting one. US can be, now the US can be a bit boring. The next one again should be a pretty interesting one. What is your favorite smell? So since you love the smell when you wake up in the morning, you could smell it every day. Could be a smell of
Oh,
cooking. Could be a
I
flower.
am into
Could be a
fragrances. I
cologne.
am into a lot of oils and incense. I like angel oil. I'm into I like. There's
Yeah.
an old cologne that I like also. Um, Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I like those musty
Yeah, keeping it
old
clean.
scents. Yes.
Okay, okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. I guess I have some knowledge of particularly like much smells. Interesting. Okay. Here's another unusual one. What is the largest that you've ever been in? So it could be a concert, could be cricket, could be a rally. The largest crowd that you've ever been in your entire life. What's the
Largest
largest
crowd.
crowd?
I've been in many crowds, but there was one I remember in 2015. I was invited to the US to receive an award. This was a group of Guyanese after the coalition victory. We were up there and we had we had thousands of Guyanese, and I was so impressed to see so many Guyanese in the diaspora coming out and celebrate. So that was a very good
Great. That
moment
is,
to be.
yeah, that sounds good. That's about to be an actually.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now let's shift gears a touch. And you can maybe throw in any comments that you might. But what is your biggest hope for the future of Guyana? Something that you're really looking forward to, that you want to see in our country as we go along, as we develop for the future of Guyana.
I in international relations and history and looking around to different, especially this being a post-colonial society and the way it was constructed with a very polarized environment of different races. And looking at places like Malaysia and Indonesia, and you see how they were able to put so many races together within the same period of us actually having our independence like them. And to see how they were able to use that and develop the resources that they have to now rival the world in terms of economic and intellectual might. I believe we can get there if we also understand that how we have to bring our relationships and our people together in a sincere way. That is my biggest hope. Unity. Once we get there, like those nations, I believe we can do quite well also.
Well, I think that's great. I'm happy to hear that. I definitely understand where you're coming from. We do see in a lot of post-colonial societies a lot of tension, tribal, whether it's along the lines of race, whether it's along the lines of nationality, as I believe in Singapore, there was the Malays versus the Chinese, and so on and so forth. And one of the things that I like to mention this issue as Guyanese is consider this notion. It is not at all surprising or even interesting that we have racial strife in Guyana because this is societies. So let us proceed from the assumption that this is what a lot of people are dealing with. And let's try to see how we can learn from other societies. And I think if we think about races as a big, this is a normal British colonial tactic. They do it all the time. So it's not surprising or even interesting. Anyway, one side of the coin of things. Do you have anything that you'd like to mention as we kind of close off? I know that you've been on online in these various shows, which I think is important. I think it's important for the young and talented and charming. This is the second time in the show I've said that you're talented and charming. To get a chance to speak as much as possible, I think that we will lend a voice that can bring people together, but also share different perspectives. So, I'm always glad to hear from younger folks. If you have any closing remarks, give you an opportunity.
Well, thanks for considering me younger folks. So I am grateful to still know that with all the gray, I am considered that. But just to say that, it's important that you made mention about having my voice and to include your voice. And to just say that is what I would want to see from many more Guyanese, especially younger Guyanese like yourself. And I take that young too, that youth like myself, to be able to speak. I believe in those three principles as Guyanese try to change our reality and the circumstances, is that we see things we don't like. For example, you saw that very ugly bird, whatever it is at the roundabout. You don't like it. You don't like it.
Whatever it is.
And when you see things after a while, you speak about it. We have to come to that point of when we see things and it's not right or it's not within our best interest, we say. And then we move to that third state of advocacy that if when we speak, we have to get to the point of doing something about it. So I hope to see that sort of activism and encourage yourself and many other young people to get to that point of letting us do something to change our society.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's so critical. There is, on the one hand, speaking out and general speaking out, but there's also the importance of action. So those are the types of things that we need to see. I am desperately curious as to whether they'll. If they don't, that will perhaps be even more entertaining. But let's see how that goes. I'm also desperately curious what the monument cost, the sense of the value of the monument and whether it met its value.
Remember,
Of course,
we
I
have
don't know,
10,000 different species of birds, so I am still yet to figure out which one that is. Over 10,000 different species. So if they don't don't get it right, that is why people should be so annoyed and upset. Because if you don't get it right, what type of bird? Guyana is one of the best birding destination in the world.
Sure.
Yeah. You just can't pass up anything for millions of dollars and say it's a bird. What kind of bird?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's very embarrassing, and in fact, the harpy eagle is known for having a very prominent feathers above its head and so on. I think that's made it so difficult for people to even recognize. Like I said, I thought it was a toucan at first, but I said no, the coloring can be right. Anyway, long story short, something needs to be done. Again, humbly suggest to the government that they start with the upside down yield sign, because it seems to me, I could be wrong, that might cause a traffic accident. So hopefully in the nearest future. So thank you very much for coming on tonight, Sharma.
Nice to be on.
Good having you on. We learned a bit about you. We learned that you're an old-fashioned sense. And so we'll look forward to chatting with you in the future as well.
Good having me on. Stay blessed.
So that was Sharma Solomon as a member of the PNCR. He gave you a sense of what he's worked on, and he's someone who has some relations experience and understanding in that field. So we thank him again for coming on our program. And next, we're going to talk a bit about for young people who want to get involved in the oil and gas industry, especially as it regards training. So you might have picked up over the course of this show that there's different levels of training that are required for different types of jobs. And as a result, maybe what I would suggest is you might want to start from the perspective of what is the job. You could be interested in being a petroleum engineer. You could be interested in working on an FPSO itself. You could be interested in working on a shore-based job. So you should probably ask yourself, what are you most interested in, and start from that perspective, and then work your way backward. But essentially, there's various ways to get trained in the oil and gas sector. The Center for Business Development does some training, even though that's going to be training mostly in terms of supplying Exxon and the others with goods and services. So business development training, still in the oil and gas industry, but more tangential. There are also a few scholarships that are offered by the government through the Gold Scholarship Program. Previously, that I don't think anywhere near enough focus is being placed through those types of online programs, anywhere near enough focus on the number of scholars, the oil and gas area. I think it's kind of by that we have oil and gas scholarships there, rather than that being the clear focus of the program. So there are some program you can apply to the government regarding that. You can probably just Google that and I'll pull up all the information. But the Gold program has oil and gas scholarships, which will be, of course, on you. You're also going to see various other training centers around the country have these types of programs developed. The PNCR believes that we have to have more training facilities, that we need to build up the existing facilities, and that we need to require, because we must tackle the skills gap that we see in our population. We cannot allow it to go by the way so much an infrastructure rather than get these jobs, training of our population to get these jobs. If we don't do that, then we'll rely a lot on imported labor, and we're already seeing a lot of imported labor. Now because we don't have the capacity, but it would be a real shame if most of the high-paying jobs over time only ever went to foreigners and not to Guyanese, and it would be acceptable. And so we're going to do everything in our power from the PNCR's perspective to help Guyanese to get as much training as possible so they can occupy as is possible, as many as we can. But to that end, we've seen Gaisuko actually have a training center developed, set up. There's going to be a Gaisuko training center that's going to deal with some of the former sugar sugar workers and so on. Of course, even the scale of what is required in terms of the number of people that are required in the oil and gas industry, perhaps Exxon needing as much as 30,000 workers. But not the only company that's going to be producing oil in Guyana. You've got CGX, which has a find. You've got Eco Atlantic, which has a couple of finds. Those companies, I'm sure, will eventually be producing oil, and so they'll eventually also need workers. They may not have as much oil produced as Exxon. They may not have as many facilities as FPSOs. They will have some, and so you can anticipate that there will be probably another 10,000 jobs there as well. We'll have to see. But that means that there is, again, so much urgent to get people to be able to occupy these high jobs. That is a key thing. So as concerns sugar workers, as I've mentioned before, we've talked a lot about training, and $6 billion that was put in the budget towards Gaisuko should be primarily put towards facilitating retraining Gaisuko workers so they can get higher paying jobs. That's the key. So there's going to be a Gaisuko training deal that needs to be expanded even more. If it were up to me, I would rename Gaisuko the Guyana National Oil and Gas Training Center. But the day, but I think it gives you a sense that we really need to shift the focus of our economy towards what is required for the next 25 to 30 years. Perhaps if you're very academically inclined, if you're a student at the University of Guyana, or you're thinking about going to the University of Guyana, the University of Guyana has its own training. It actually has programs in place. It deals with training in the oil and gas sector. The University of Guyana does deal with training in the oil and gas. And here you could consider, we've got a last picture there, a last slide there of an oil worker. Let's throw that up. Let's help our viewers to visualize. Them. You've got your Guyanese hard hat and his overalls. You've got in the background an oil rig. These are the types of things that you should be putting your mind towards. Imagine it yourself. Do you want to be that type of oil rig worker, or would you prefer to be maybe more in an office? Like there's some Guyanese that have been involved in finding the various oil finds in Guyana, and they've actually been involved apparently in naming the various fields. So oil finds, I guess. So that's something to keep in mind. This is you should visualize what this future might be like and how you might fit into that. At the university, an associate's degree in petroleum engineering, and they've also got a master's in oil and gas and renewable energy. So an associate's degree course, usually associate's degrees are always shorter. and that's going to be in petroleum engineering. So you can probably attach that to your existing studies if that's what you'd like to do. And there's also in oil and gas and renewable energy, masters in oil and gas and renewable energy. So if you already have a degree, you can go for a master's. This will allow you to build out your resume to be much more marketable, to be much more to give you more access to working maybe in a managerial role, company like Exxon. These are the types of programs. I know the University of Guyana has additional programs. I'm just giving you a sample, but you can go to their website and find out about these types of programs. There'll be programs, I'm sure, as time goes on. And that is something that you can rely on as a local mechanism for you to get training. Of course, we in the Pnc Guyana being free, I am very much committed to University of Guyana being free, and I believe that as we go further, we should encourage people as much as possible solutions so they can get these higher paying jobs, so they can get these oil and gas jobs. So if you'd like, you can go to the University of Guyana and benefit from their programs. They must be commended for that. After that, we've got other programs around the country, but these tend to sometimes be a bit more sporadic. They're not available every private training programs and so on. But what you'll actually see is that a lot of these oil and gas companies themselves, the companies themselves will have. I know that the Guyana Shore Base has some training programs. Guyana Shore Base Inc. has had training programs in the past to get employees up to speed so that they can work something that they obviously would want. They want to get workers in. I believe they're hiring another 150 over the course of the next year, but I have to double check that. But so there's, I believe, Total Tech has a training program as well. They've done periodically. So you'll see periodically these types of programs pop up. Needs to be alert to it. Keep Facebook pages and the websites of these particular companies for these opportunities. Keep an eye out for these opportunities. And once you do that, you'll be enrolled right away. Many of them are going to be free because it's for potential employees. So obviously the company is benefiting from you being trained. So just have to be able to get your foot in the door, and you get training, and then you can enter into the company and be a part of all that they're working on. Pop up with local oil companies. Keep an eye out on Facebook. Keep an eye out on their website. Keep an eye out on the newspapers, and try and seize opportunities that come to us. To the end of our program. I hope you had a good time with us tonight. We had a laugh. We talked in great detail about the oil and gas economy. We talked the bits need to be done in order for us to meet the needs of that oil and gas economy. We've also talked about how you can get training so that you can get a job. And we, of course, had with Sharma Solomon, nice and light chat. Thank you for tuning in again. Thank you for sharing your Saturday nights with us. And this has been the Lowdown with your host. We'll see you next week.